The comeback falls short. On today's episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast, we're going to explain why the UNC loss is the most frustrating defeat of the season so far.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my 6th year covering U of L, 4th year hosting this show. Thank you so much for making Locked On Louisville your first listen of the day and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the world. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. We put that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, but putting in the work defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Today's show is all about reacting to the 77-74 loss to North Carolina on Monday evening. This is the most frustrating loss of the season for the Louisville Cardinals, in my opinion. Started out with a double-digit lead that got wiped out pretty quickly. North Carolina went on a run in the second half. Louisville made a comeback. The comeback fell short. So that's where we're going to start out today's show, by explaining a little bit of how Louisville was able to come back in this game. But the reason to have to come back in the first place is where the root of the problem is. So Louisville trailed by 16 points in the second half of this game. It seemed like this was just going to be like every other performance on the road against a top team, and the Cardinals would just kind of get punched and fall down and not get back up. Well, credit to the team. They got up off the mat and they started throwing punches of their own. They had an opportunity late in this game. They had a shot with about 20-something seconds to go, down by 3 to tie the game. Mikel Brown Jr. Opts to go with like a floater off balance. Possibly could have called a foul, but doesn't get the whistle. Louisville ends up fouling. And at that point, they get another opportunity with about 0.8 seconds to go, down by 3, and they just weren't able to get a shot off. So credit to the team for fighting back. I will say that if there's one like small silver lining in this whole outcome, it's that Louisville, unlike previous games during this season against top teams on the road when they got punched in the mouth, this time they came back. Now, here's the issue. Number one, North Carolina didn't have Caleb Wilson. So they were without their best player, not at full strength, and they just kind of stayed afloat since he got hurt. So that's the first thing, is you lost to a team that was without their best player. Number two, why did you even have to have a second half comeback in the first place? See, that's the problem here, is that, it's like the, Groundhog Day movie with Bill Murray. Well, it's Groundhog Day once again. Basically meaning the same things that happened against top 25 teams happened again on Monday night. You had a 10-point lead early in this game. And at the time, I was like, okay, everything's working. Mikel's hitting some nice three-point shots. And immediately after, the team lost the lead with the snap of a finger. Why? Because the offense got stagnant. You didn't really get much paint touches. It was just passing the ball around the perimeter, trying to find a three-point shot, so you didn't score. North Carolina immediately answered on a run of their own because they had like 3 straight easy buckets. And all of a sudden, Carolina's leading. We saw that in the Baylor game to an extent, where Louisville had a 7-point lead. You look down, you look back up, and now they're trailing by 7 in the first half. So all things considered, you were down by 1 going into halftime. Not the worst. It's not ideal considering that it was 23-13 and you go into halftime trailing 39-38. But the second half, the start of it was all Carolina. They opened up on a 17-2 run. You were losing by 16. There was a stretch in the game where you almost went 10 minutes of game time without a bucket. Why? We've talked about the root of the problems. More on that coming out throughout the duration of this show, and honestly throughout this week, because you can't really just have one episode to talk about this. But you can applaud the team for coming back, but they shouldn't have had to in the first place. Like, if you don't go on an extreme drought at the end of the first half, beginning of the second half, you're in the game. And the drought is what cost you this win. Now, I understand officiating wasn't great. There was the most obvious basket interference call that I've ever seen in my life that the referees just didn't even think twice about. That was pretty obvious. There were some other foul calls that I thought were comical. But with the way that this team played, I can't blame it on officiating. I know it was a close game, and that basket interference call changes potentially the outcome. But I think it's lazy to blame officiating, especially when you look at all the other problems going on. Because we've got to focus on that. I'm not going to use officiating as a crutch in this one. Louisville wasn't good enough in this game to win. They just weren't. And North Carolina didn't really do anything spectacular. I mean, they shot the ball 54% from the field, 36% from three on 8 made three-pointers, and 9 of 19 from the free throw line. You out-rebounded the Tar Heels by 9. You turned the ball over one more time. You had more points off turnovers than they did. You were tied with fast break points. Here's the issue. North Carolina, 40 points in the paint to Louisville's 24. There's your game right there. And it's a continual talking point. The Cardinals don't get downhill as often as they should, and they don't defend the paint effectively. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm getting really tired of talking about the same things because at this point, we know who Louisville is. I mean, there's 3 regular season games left. You know who this team is. What worries me, or not, maybe not what worries me, what discourages me, that's better. What discourages me is that even with the personnel issues that people talk about, okay, if there's an issue at roster construction, okay, I get it. But shouldn't you be trying different things if that's the case? Like if you, and the team tried to go to a zone tonight, but how much have you actually practiced? That's my question, right? We've been asking over and over about a zone, and Louisville finally goes to it, and North Carolina gets open shots. But it's like, if you're just now choosing to implement a zone against North Carolina on the road, a team that's 15-0 at home, it just seems like a tough time to try to implement that. It's hard to be positive because this game was a must-win, in my opinion. You needed a signature victory. You needed a quad 1A victory. Every opportunity was there. North Carolina was missing their best player. You had a 10-point lead in the first half. And the same things continued to hold the Cardinals back. Remember that, remember the scoring droughts that I mentioned this, right? Against Georgia Tech. I said 2 things can be true at one time. You could be happy that Louisville beat Georgia Tech, but understand that having 2 large scoring droughts against the Yellow Jackets was not good because maybe you can get away with it against Georgia Tech. You went through 2 scoring droughts against North Carolina, and what happened? You lost. So that's why you have to remain in the middle, right? You could be happy with a win, but understanding that if a performance isn't good enough, you've got to call it for what it is. It's not the standard, so we got to talk about it. And here we are. Here we are. What plagued you against Georgia Tech plagued you against North Carolina. The difference is you weren't playing at the KFC Yum Center, and the difference is you were playing a better team. Credit to Seth Trimble, by the way. If I don't mention that, I would definitely be doing college basketball a disservice. Seth Trimble was spectacular on Monday. Career high 30 points on 11 of 16 from the field. He had 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal. Louisville couldn't stay in front of him, and that's been a recurring issue as well, is that the Cardinals haven't really been proficient with on-ball defense on the perimeter. And it opens up so much when a guy beats you off the dribble and you have to have help defense rotate, and then at that point, everyone's out of position, and there we are. That's something you couldn't do. Like, Louisville's backcourt was supposed to be the advantage, and was it? Was it a better backcourt? I don't believe so. Maybe from a points total overall, sure. You watch the game, North Carolina had just as good of a backcourt as Louisville did. Mikel hit some shots early. He ended up shooting the ball 9 of 25 from the field, 24 points. I mean, hey, credit to him. I thought he had a good game. Only had 1 turnover, which is solid. Louisville didn't turn the ball over much at all. They only had, 10 is still a decent amount, but it's less than what they had been doing, right? But again, it's all about the lack of adjustments. It's the rotations. There are some things that keep happening that is holding Louisville back against top teams. We'll attempt to break those things down when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. This is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who sure there's more to the score than what's on the screen. I will say, even with the loss, I still find myself feeling like Javon Hadley isn't appreciated as much as he should be. Another consistent performance from him, 31 minutes against North Carolina, 14 points, 6 of 8 from the field, 2 of 3 from the three-point line, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block, continues to be the glue guy that Louisville needs on the floor. And, his impact spans well beyond the box score. Javon's performance shows us what it really takes to raise the bar. It's the extra work on and off the court, dialing in on every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, that I never quit mentality. Well, Mazda puts that same passion into every model that they create. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. And before we get into the next segment, let's tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. If you've ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person, well, FanDuel is now giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about what team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. Whether you're picking a team to win their conference championship or to win it all, it adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Card Nation, thank you so much for making Locked On Louisville your first listen of the day and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Get Locked On Louisville ad-free with the Everydayer Club, plus members-only Discord access. Join at lockedonlouisville.supercast.com or check the show notes to learn more. Today's episode is all about a rather genuine reaction to Louisville's loss at North Carolina. This show is being recorded about 3 hours, about 2.5 hours after the game. I had a live post-game show with the State of Louisville team at Main Event with their watch party. Tonight they have another watch party on Saturday for the road game at Clemson. If that's something that you're interested in attending, they will have a live pre- and post-game show. But got home a little later, and now we are reacting on this show. It gave me a little bit of time on my drive home to collect some thoughts. I don't want to come on here and ramble for 30 minutes and just repeat myself over and over. But I keep coming back to the fact that you can't really celebrate the second half comeback because of the reason why you had to, right? If you start out the second half prepared, you don't go down by 16. You were down by 1. You're down by 1 going into the final 20 minutes of play, and your offense was stagnant. You were shooting a lot of ill-advised three-pointers. Your shot selection wasn't great. Pat Kelsey alluded to that, not getting paint touches. Defensively, you were giving up open shots, late closeouts, not communicating. The list goes on. The same issues, the same culprits, same in this game. So, do you consider it a lack of adjustments? Because I look at this game and some people will say, well, Pat Kelsey got out-coached. And I know that this is going to be associated, it's going to be lumped in with all of the other road games against top teams because it fits into that category, and that's what we were looking for. But I just don't know that Hubert Davis did anything spectacular to like severely outcoach Pat Kelsey. Like, I think it's just UNC watched the game film. They understood that Louisville doesn't defend well on the perimeter. They got stuff going downhill. And hey, I mean, it's kind of like, you remember the Virginia football game this past year where Virginia didn't do anything spectacular. They just didn't hurt themselves, right? Like, they didn't lose the game on their own. They made some winning plays, sure, but they weren't really spectacular. I don't think that North Carolina was all that spectacular. I'm not trying to take away from the Tar Heels. I thought that they played a good game and they got a good win at home. I just think that Carolina's like, okay, we're going to attack you in your weak spots, which is interior defense, interior offense. We're going to heavily defend the three-point line and make you adjust. And maybe that's where you say, well, Pat Kelsey's lack of adjustments come into play, because this wasn't what we saw in the 5-game winning streak. What we saw in the 5-game winning streak was the Cardinals getting downhill. We saw them taking the ball to the rim and finding open shooters out on the perimeter or finishing through contact and being decisive. I can't tell you how many times I watched the game on Monday, and even when Louisville did try to take it to the basket, they would like take it down to the dunker spot or the low block and just not know what to do. Indecisiveness is not a recipe for success when you're right around the basket. Like, you've got to be much better. You've got to be more decisive, more assertive with the basketball. Understand the whistle wasn't on your side. It wasn't a favorable whistle for you. But is that what you're going to fall back on when you're not getting a good whistle in the NCAA tournament? No, you have to play through it. I think that the rotations and the substitutions, I know that that's been something that's been heavily criticized this season. I wonder if the Cardinals would benefit more from a shorter rotation, because I understand you're trying to substitute, but sometimes I don't really understand the pattern of substituting. It feels like we're substituting just to make subs, because I saw Kobe Rogers make a couple of big plays, made a spark off the bench, and then he almost immediately got taken out. Kenai Roots had a couple of big offensive rebounding plays, and he got taken out. It's like, why not go with, like, I understand that you have your system and you want to play to your philosophies, but sometimes when you see that some things are working, now that this is just an outside perspective, like, Louisville's got to do a better job of just sticking with what works. Too many times do we see guys that spark a run or make some great plays and they get taken out. Like, if a guy in the second unit like Kobe Rogers or Kenai Roots or Kason Pryor is playing well, keep them in. Keep them in. If they play more in the second half down the stretch and they are producing great plays and playing winning basketball, I don't care who's in the game. I don't. I understand you want your stars in the game, but if your second unit is playing better than some of your starters, keep the second unit guys in, especially guys like Kobe Rogers that you saw. I'm glad that Louisville ended up running more with Vangelis Zougaras in the second half. That was nice to see, right? But it kind of comes down to the point where, you had a 24-point performance from Mikel Brown Jr., who was really good again. Javon Hadley, both of those guys playing over 30 minutes. Hadley, 14 points, 6 rebounds. Mr. Consistency, the glue guy. Ryan Conwell, 23 points, but not really all of that efficient, especially from the three-point line. They need more help. Like, if you want to be the best version of yourself as a team, it can't just be MBJ and Javon. Like, you need Isaac McKneely to show up. He didn't. You need Ryan Conwell to be more efficient. You need Sananda Frew to stay on the floor. You need Kenai Roots to give you good minutes off the bench. Same with Woolley, Rogers, Khalifa, Pryor. The issue is that it's like a collective sense of individuals doing the same things wrong, and it's all combining. Like, I mean, you could say, well, hey, this is Louisville's problem, but really it's more of a complex answer than that. Does it all come down to coaching? I think that that's one aspect of it. If your issue is roster construction, well, that goes back to coaching as well. But I do want to talk about some of the individual performances because, like I said, I'm trying to be as fair as I can with the criticism, but the Cardinals have to get more from some of their supporting cast. We'll break it down when we come back. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. We all have seen it. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Well, here's the stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. So less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who make the most sense. That means less stress, less time, and more results. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Card Nation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment in the YouTube section below. Both are great ways to help the show continue to grow. And Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week, covering your team every day. Concluding today's live reaction of Louisville's second half comeback, falling short against North Carolina. I am probably going to miss some things. If I do, I'll discuss them on Wednesday. There's just a lot that went wrong and a lot that's continuing to go wrong. And look, I'm doing my best to be as fair as I can. You all know that, right? I'm doing my best to just try to have fair criticism without just talking about the same things over and over. But the standard is the standard, and we expect a lot from this team. Like, I keep coming back to this point, and it's really sad to think about, but you have one of the most talented players in program history on your team right now, and you can't beat a good team on the road. That's the sad part about it. And I think that points back to coaching. It points back to, if the individual players keep doing things incorrectly, at some point, you got to look back to the leadership, instruction, game planning, adjustments, you name it, that whole root of the problem. The coaching, in my opinion, has to be better. But it's just depressing to think about. Louisville has a top 10 draft pick on their team. They haven't had that in a long time. And yeah, they're going to make the tournament, but I mean, not even many people in the fan base think that they can go far. And I hope that they prove everyone wrong. But they're going to have to do a complete 180. But then again, it's not because of Mikel lately. It's because of the supporting cast. You've gotten a lot from Mikel, you've gotten a lot from Javon, but outside of those two, it's been inconsistency. Now, I will say from an offensive standpoint overall, the game plan's too predictable. I had some people asking the post-game episode tonight, well, why does Louisville seemingly have good shooters, but the spacing's bad? Well, because teams are selling out to defend the three. They don't respect Louisville taking the ball to the basket because they know that A, they're not looking to take it to the basket, and B, when they do, they're indecisive. So they're going to sell out to defend the three. And when you do that, you tighten the perimeter. You don't get a ton of good looks. And if Louisville's showing the willingness to just try to shoot over hands in their face, then, hey, defense is going to tighten up even more. So the offense continues to be predictable in these losses. You have to do a better job of getting downhill. Point of emphasis on the paint touches. Get the ball around the basket, play inside out, get to the foul line. Yeah, Louisville didn't have a free throw until late in the first half. I really can't blame the officiating too much. Now, the officiating wasn't good, but Louisville just didn't look to get to the basket. That's the problem. can you blame officiating a ton when your offensive identity is surrounded by shooting three-pointers, which Louisville is number 3 in the country entering Monday night with three-pointers attempted per game. And I'm okay with shooting a ton of threes if they're in the rhythm of the offense, if they're good looks. We'll have a conversation about defense tomorrow. Let's talk a little bit about some individual performances. I think that there are some issues with foul trouble, right? Sananda has to stay on the floor. This is another game where he only played 16 minutes because he got in foul trouble early on. I mean, look at the last couple of games. I mean, Georgia Tech, not really, but he only played 17 minutes. He hasn't really had a good game since Wake Forest in early February. It's been kind of a tough stretch for him over the past couple of games, even though his role's been kind of diminished. But he got in foul trouble at SMU. He got in foul trouble at North Carolina. He's got to do a better job of staying in position, understanding, hey, they're going to call this a moving screen if you do this. They're going to call this a blocking foul if you don't go straight up. Like, you've just got to do a better job of adjusting. Is it fair the way that some of these moving screens are called? Probably not, but hey, you have to adjust. They need Frew on the floor because what happened is when Sananda went off the court, Ali Khalifa took those minutes and North Carolina targeted him on defense. Like, you look at that run that North Carolina went on. Out of an inbound play on the baseline, pass out to an open shooter, late closeout by Khalifa. Then Khalifa goes up and tries to defend the ball handler on the pick and roll, and he goes high up the court, and he's late on the recovery. Nobody rotates, and Henry Visar has a reverse dunk alley-oop. So, and then offensively, there were a couple turnovers. It's just that I think in these matchups, like, I think Khalifa needs to be used in a very matchup-specific way. Now, you really can't blame Kelsey for having to go to his bench because Frew picked up the foul trouble. But would have liked to seen Case and Pryor more. You saw Zoo more. Zoo played really good against Henry Visar. I liked what we saw from Zucris. Isaac McKneely. Simply put, no way around it. I need more from him. He played 24 minutes. Had 0 points. He was 0 of 5 of shooting all 5 shots, 3-pointers. 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal. Louisville did make the run in the second half when Isaac was not on the floor. So Isaac needs to, A, hit open shots because he had some open shots. But B, he has to be able to affect the game even when he's not shooting the ball particularly well. Ryan Conwell, 23 points of 7 to 19 from the field, but 4 of 11 from 3. There was that basically said that Louisville just doesn't win many games when he takes 11 3-point shots. Like, I think less is more in this regard, unless you're just shooting the ball really well. But, I mean, looking back to, like, when February started, let's go back to January 31st, right after the Duke game. Here's his 3-point numbers. SMU, 1 of 11. Notre Dame, 1 of 9. NC State, 5 of 6. That's what you like with volume. Baylor, 1 of 5. SMU, 2 of 11. Georgia Tech, 2 of 7. North Carolina, 4 of 11. I'm all for him taking shots, but I don't think that green light should be as available, especially on these step-back threes, hands in your face. Like, that's another reason why Louisville goes on scoring droughts. And it's not just him, but you see ill-advised shots. Like, Louisville reverts back to what they're comfortable with, and that's taking ill-advised, hands in their face, deep three-pointers that aren't high-percentage shots. So, I mean, it's a long way of coming back to the original point that I'm trying to make, is that Louisville more from their supporting cast. It can't just be Mikel. It can't just be Javon Hadley being your best players on the floor. You need more from Sananda Frew, from Ryan Conwell, from Isaac McKneely, from Kenai Roos, from Case and Pryor, from Ali Khalifa, from Adrian Woolley, from Kobe Rogers. It's a top-to-bottom problem. There's not one player who is solely to blame for the North Carolina loss and some of the struggles against top teams. It is one of those things where you win as a team, you lose as a team, and the team just hasn't been good enough in these types of games. That's my reaction. is that I'm discouraged. Like, I'm just kind of apathetic at the moment, because on Monday I was hopeful that this team had learned from their issues against top teams. And although they came back in the second half, it didn't matter. And here Louisville is without a signature regular season win. Their last top 25 road win was January of 2020. COVID wasn't even here yet. That's how long it's been. How long is it going to be until the next one? Who knows? Throughout the week, we are going to continue to discuss like what specifically Louisville needs to do better. We are going to preview the upcoming matchup against Clemson on Saturday. Season still is not over. Even though things feel pretty low at the moment, we still hopefully have a chance to see this team try to turn things around. But that's going to wrap up this Tuesday edition of the show. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Go Cards.